It's Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. Welcome to Make It Make Sense. I'm Grant Herms. Today on the show, the Democrats are getting close to releasing their official 2024 campaign review about why they lost, and it turns out they don't really want to know in the first place. I'm going to talk about what's in this report, or this draft report, I should say, more importantly, what's not in it, and what it means for a party that hasn't been able to find its way out of a paper bag, let alone a leader right now. But first, make sure you're following and subscribe to Make It Make Sense on whatever podcast app you listen to this on. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications on YouTube if you're a watcher. Sign up for the Make It Make Sense Substack, where I've got new bonus content going up there all the time. And as always, share the show on social media. It's Mims Newspod, that's MIMS Newspod, all one word on every platform. I am at Grant Herms on Twitter and Bluesky, and at Grant Herms TV on everything else. All right, let's get on with the show. Hey, listener. You know what the show is all about breaking down the news in a way that actually makes sense. No spin, just real reporting and smart conversations. And as an audience, you're sharp, curious, and engaged. And I know that you value where you spend your time and money. So if you're a brand, an organization, or a cause that aligns with truth, trust, and just cutting through the noise, then we want to partner with you. Whether you're launching a new product, pushing a policy, or you just want to get your message in front of an audience that values insight over outrage, let's make it make sense together. For ad rates, sponsorship packages, and custom campaigns, you can email ads@matchbookmediapod.com. That's ADS at matchbookmediapod.com. Because the smartest conversations deserve the smartest partners. Okay, let's get on with the show. So, over the weekend, a story in the New York Times came out about a brand new draft report from the Democrats about what happened in the 2024 campaign. Now, it was buried under the Epstein saga, which is still happening. By the way, there was some more breaking news today, which I'll be talking about on social media. But what I want to talk about here is this Democratic autopsy report. So, I've talked about this concept before, that after elections, the losing party does a report, a review, an autopsy of this dead campaign about why they lost and what they should change for the next time around. And officially, they're called audits or after-action reviews. The most famous one, at least in recent memory, was the 2012 Republican campaign autopsy, where famously or infamously, you can decide, that audit said they lost because they needed to tone down hardline immigration policies and embrace non-white voters. It's famous or infamous, like I said, because the party chose actively to not do that and then still won in 2016. So that should also say that these audits aren't always right on the money when they get put out. And that's for some reasons that we'll talk about a little later. And before we get to what's going on in this Democratic review, I need to say that it's only a draft for right now, but it's so close to being done that the team behind it is already starting to share it with party insiders. So according to the New York Times, the official Democratic Party review is, quote, expected to avoid the questions of whether former President Joseph R. Biden Jr. should have run for re-election in the first place, whether he should have exited the race earlier than he did, and whether former Vice President Kamala Harris was the right choice to replace him. It will also not, apparently, revisit key decisions by the Harris campaign, like framing the election as a choice between democracy and fascism, and refraining from hitting back after an ad by Donald Trump memorably attacked Ms. Harris on transgender rights by suggesting that she was for they, them, while Mr. Trump was for you. And then, according to people who have seen this draft, they said it was, quote, focusing on the 2024 election as a whole, but not on the presidential campaign. Which really raises the question, what's the point of doing all this then? If you're not going to look back at the biggest campaign that raised the most money and that made the decisions that impacted what are called down-ballot races, so state, congressional, or Senate races, why do this review at all? According to the head of the Association of Democratic State Chairs, so the leaders of the state-level parties, she said, we're not interested in second-guessing campaign tactics or decisions of campaign operatives, which, again, raises the question, so then why do this review at all? It's a lot of work and time if you're not going to look for actual answers. As the Times put it, it's kind of like going to a steakhouse, but then reviewing the salad. But I think it's worse. I think it's more like having your oncologist ignore your tumor because you have a hangnail. So if this review isn't going to look at the presidential race or the choices of its top candidates or campaigns, what is it going to look at? Well, apparently, it's going to focus on outside groups and super PACs, those are political action committees, that spend hundreds of millions of dollars aiding the Biden and Harris campaigns through advertising, voter registration drives, and turnout efforts. Specifically, according to this report, the blame will be put on the party's official political action group, so the people who spend the big bucks. They're called Future Forward, and the group spent about $560 million on the Biden and then Harris campaigns. And that same party official from before told the Times, the days of us spending millions and millions of dollars on traditional TV ads are over. And I do think that this report will put an exclamation point on that. So what this means is that at no point is the official Democratic Party planning on doing some real introspection about 2024. They're not going to be looking at the roles that party insiders played in not forcing Biden to keep his promise to be a transitional president. They're not going to look at party officials allowing Biden to stay in the race and then also insulating and in some cases lying to the American public and the press about the concerns over his health. They're not going to be looking at the roles those same party officials played in not holding a snap primary for a candidate to replace Biden when he did choose to drop out, and then the choices to not lean into popular policies, personalities, and talking points by the Harris campaign, to instead play defense against attacks from moderates and Republicans and Donald Trump himself. And that doesn't undercut the unbelievable amount of effort that it took to change course and candidates in a overall $2 billion Democratic campaign that set fundraising records in its 100-day lifespan, but it also doesn't negate the fact that this review is going to boil down to essentially the same thing that Democrats have been saying since 2012, which is saying that they just need to do better on social media, saying their policies are good, they just need to be better about reaching people, which is a part of politics, but the Democratic Party has been saying this for more than a decade. They've been trying to capture the lightning in a bottle that was the Obama 2008 campaign, which that was almost 20 years ago. That campaign did a really novel and a really good job of using what was then newish technology, which was campaigning on Facebook. But that's changed. And for what it's worth, Future Forward, the group that is going to take the blame in this report, spent $51 million on YouTube ads alone. They were on social media. They were reaching out. And not to mention the fact that the Democratic National Convention locked out actual journalists last fall to give press passes to social media influencers. So it's not like they didn't lean into social media almost entirely. And so what the party is doing here, and what they're missing by chasing that Obama 08 dragon, is missing the point that this is just as much about the messenger as it is the message and the messaging. It's a continuation of the same ideas that have only worked half the time, and increasingly, as we've gotten further away from 2008, they've worked less and less. Now, that's not to say that Harris was the right or wrong candidate. Things just didn't come together. And the irony is that Tim Walz, the governor from Minnesota and the vice presidential candidate this last time around, has gone on a national apology tour. I wrote about it back in March on the Make It Make Sense Substack, in which he said on stage, "We shouldn't have been playing things so safe. In football parlance, we were in a prevent defense to not lose when we never had anything to lose because I don't think we were ever ahead." But that isn't the stance that this draft review is going to be taking, at least according to people who have seen it. It's essentially shifting blame away from the same people who helped Democrats lose this last election and who remain in power in the party that has been leaderless and listless in its direction and motivation for the last 8 months. Now, this isn't the only post-election autopsy that's on the way, though this is the official party one. There's another one expected from the campaign manager of both the Biden and Harris campaigns, Jen O'Malley-Dillon, who is about as close to Biden as anyone. She is a party insider's insider. So it's clear that that review will need to come with a grain of salt when we read it. And then there's another big one being done by the group, the Strategic Victory Fund, which is a collection of liberal donors and organizations. I've talked a little bit about that before on the Substack, but the leader of that said that they've already reviewed and talked to 100 people for that review, including campaign and party insiders, but he's not planning on releasing that report publicly because he only wants to use it within the DNC. Now, depending on how angry somebody gets with what that review finds, it'll likely get leaked. But for now, we know that the Democrats still haven't been able to land on a reason they can live with about why the 2024 election went the way that it did. Even if it's obvious to voters, party officials and outside groups. And for those of you who are hearing this or might read this article and think that it's ragging on the Democrats, it is, sure, kind of. But I make this point, and I make a point to talk about it because, yes, this is a political show, and this is how politics work, but it's good for a country to have a functioning opposition party to the one that's in power, especially when the party that isn't in power is completely away from all those powerful decisions, which is what the Democrats are right now. Our whole American experiment is designed to embrace dissent and discussion. That's democracy. And if the Democrats can't get this together in time for when campaigns start for the 2026 election, they're going to have the exact same results they had last time. Okay, that is it for today's episode. Please rate and review the show on whatever podcast app you listen to it on. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications on YouTube if you're a watcher. Sign up for the Make It Make Sense Substack. It's just $5 a month. You get access to a lot of great bonus content. And as always, share the show on social media. It really helps spread the word and boost Make It Make Sense. It's MIMS Newspod. It's MIMS Newspod, all one word, on every platform. I am at Granthermes on Twitter and Bluesky, and at Granthermes TV on everything else. Thank you so much for listening today. I'm Granthermes, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.